The town had one rule: be blind and hidden by 3:33 a.m. But he stayed awake to see why, and he soon wished he was blind. His name was Leo, and he was new to Havenwood. The town seemed idyllic, almost frozen in a time before smartphones and constant noise. But there was an undercurrent of anxiety he couldn't ignore. The welcome basket on his porch came with a loaf of bread, a jar of local honey, and a starkly printed card. Curfew is 3:33 a.m. No exceptions. No lights. No windows. No mirrors. He chuckled, assuming it was a local prank for the newcomer. At the town's only diner, he brought it up with Martha, the owner, who had a permanent look of worry etched around her eyes. "Oh, it's no joke, dear," she said, her voice dropping to a whisper. "You follow the rule. You have to." She told him about the Miller tragedy a few years back. Young Timmy Miller got up for a glass of water, saw something in the polished chrome of the toaster, and his parents found the kitchen destroyed, with Timmy gone. The toaster was shattered from the inside. Then there was the incident at the old library 5 years ago. The night janitor, a man named George, was polishing the large glass display cases just a minute too late. The next morning, the police found the entire front of the library caved in, glass sprayed across the street. And George, well, they only found his keys next to a single, deep scratch mark on the floor, as if something had dragged him away. Everyone said his reflection did it. Leo was a rational man, a city journalist looking for a quiet life, not a B-movie plot. Doppelgangers crawling out of mirrors? It was absurd. That first night, he followed the rule out of a strange sense of respect for the town's quirks. He retreated to the small, windowless pantry in his new house before the designated time. At exactly 3:33 a.m., the power died with a sudden, definitive click. The silence that followed was absolute, heavier than anything he'd ever experienced. He stayed there until dawn, feeling a bit foolish but also undeniably spooked. For a week, he complied, but his journalistic curiosity gnawed at him. He needed to see. He needed to understand. What could possibly happen that would make an entire town live in fear? So, on the 8th night, he decided to break the rule. He set up a small, battery-powered camera in his living room, pointing it towards the large bay window that reflected the room perfectly in the dark. He himself would hide, but the camera would be his eyes. He huddled in the pantry again, his heart thudding against his ribs. The digital clock on his phone ticked closer. 3:31, 3:32. He held his breath. Then, 3:33. The power cut out. The familiar, oppressive silence descended. He waited, counting the seconds. 1 minute. 2. 5. Nothing. A small, triumphant smile touched his lips. It was just a power grid issue, a collective delusion. He was about to emerge when a sound reached him through the pantry door. A faint, rhythmic tapping. Tap, tap, tap. It was coming from the living room. His blood ran cold. He had left the camera running. He had to see the footage. He waited until the first hint of gray dawn seeped under the door, a signal that the ordeal, whatever it was over. With shaking hands, he retrieved the camera. He rushed back to the pantry, the only safe room he knew, and pressed play. The footage began normally. The living room was dark, the bay window a black mirror showing the faint outline of his furniture. The timestamp in the corner hit 3 hours and 33 minutes. The lights in the reflection flickered off, just as they did in the real room. But then something changed. In the window's reflection, the room was different. The furniture was decayed, warped. The floral wallpaper was peeling, stained with something dark. And then, a figure shambled into view within the reflection. It looked like him. It wore his clothes, had his hair, his build, but its movements were wrong, jerky, unnatural. Its limbs were too long, its joints bending at impossible angles. The reflected Leo, his doppelganger, stared into the reflected room. It seemed to be searching for something. It peered under the rotted couch, behind the tattered curtains. Its head twitched from side to side like a bird of prey. On the video, Leo could see the creature's face in the glass. It was his face, but stretched into a permanent, silent scream, the eyes wide and black, devoid of any light or soul. The doppelganger approached the reflected window, pressing its face against the glass, its empty eyes scanning the real, dark room beyond. It couldn't see the camera. It couldn't see him. Relief washed over Leo for a split second, before being replaced by pure terror. The creature in the reflection raised a hand and tapped on the glass. Tap, tap, tap. It was the sound he had heard from the pantry. He wanted to turn the video off, to smash the camera, but he was frozen. He watched as the doppelganger in the reflection began to push against the glass. The surface of the window in the video rippled like water. The creature's long, pale fingers began to emerge from the reflection into the real living room. The fingers were real. They were solid. They scraped against the hardwood floor. Then, the doppelganger slowly, agonizingly, pulled itself through. It crawled out of the window, unfolding its distorted body onto his living room floor. It stood up, its neck cracking as it surveyed the room, its black eyes scanning the darkness. The footage was grainy, but the horror was crystal clear. This thing was in his house. Leo barely slept that day. He boarded up the windows, covered every reflective surface he could find, the TV screen, the bathroom mirror, even the shiny taps in the sink. He would not make the same mistake again. He would follow the rule. Night fell again, colder and more menacing than before. He locked himself in the pantry, his sanctuary, his prison. He didn't need a clock to know when the time came. The sudden, total silence was his only cue. He sat in the pitch black, every nerve screaming. He tried to control his breathing, praying for dawn. That's when he heard it. A sound that wasn't tapping. It was a soft, wet, scraping noise, and it was coming from right outside the pantry door. A sliver of light appeared at the bottom of the door. Not daylight. It was a flickering, pale, unnatural light. He pressed his eye to the keyhole, a desperate, foolish act. Through the tiny opening, he saw his living room, lit by that strange, ghostly glow. And standing there, not 3 feet from the pantry door, was his doppelganger. It was no longer in the reflection. It was real. It was here. It must have hidden in the house all day. As Leo watched, paralyzed, the creature slowly turned its head. Its movements were still jerky, still wrong. Its neck cracked, and its empty black eyes locked directly onto the keyhole. It saw him. It saw him. A slow smile stretched its screaming mouth, a grotesque imitation of human expression. It raised one of its long, pale hands and brought it to the pantry door. It didn't knock. It didn't pound. It began to scratch. A slow, deliberate, scraping sound. The noise of a nail dragging through old wood, a sound that promised it had all the time in the world. And dawn was hours away. If you want to find out what happens to Leo, and if he ever escapes the pantry, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell. You won't want to miss part 2. Thanks for watching.